Good morning. It's almost afternoon. Probably by the time you watch this, it will be afternoon. But this is good morning still. Round two. I just watched a video from Jeff Gray. He is in, it looks like a covered walkway leading to City Hall somewhere in Florida. And he is doing his normal God bless the homeless shtick, which I approve of 100%. Cop comes up and is like, hey, as long as you're not, panhandling or whatever. And Jeff Gray's like, okay, well, give me money. And now I'm going to make this about panhandling. And Jeff Gray says, and this is the part that I'm like, that restrictions on panhandling are unconstitutional and have been held to be unconstitutional by the United States Supreme Court and the Florida Supreme Court. And that to me, just my mind is blown. That's weird. I mean, that's interesting and amazing and awesome. And I don't think it's true. It could be, but I don't think it's true. And I'm going to tell you why. If there was a blanket ban on solicitation, no solicitation period. Just to clarify, we're not talking about prostitution. No panhandling, blanket ban, probably unconstitutional. Because if this goes out into the public, it is, just a blanket ban would be subject to strict scrutiny, just period. And it would most likely fail. You'd need an overwhelming government interest, and it would have to be narrowly tailored to achieve that overwhelming government interest, and it would have to be the least restrictive method of achieving that overwhelming government interest, and long story short, not going to happen. However, we do know that there are at least times where panhandling has been prohibited, and it's been upheld by the United States Supreme Court. See Lee versus the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, which is similar to, but not the same as, the International Society of Krishna Consciousness versus Lee. Two sister cases. One dealt with hand-billing, handing out literature to people in an airport. Supreme Court says, number one, an airport is a non-public forum. And number two, the airport cannot restrict hand-billing. Unreasonable. It's an unreasonable restriction. But in Lee versus International Society for Krishna Consciousness, same non-public forum, same airport, except this involved panhandling. And the court said, yep, that is a reasonable restriction. So now all of a sudden we have to look at forum analysis. So let's take this out. Let's just assume, arguendo, that the entryway into the City Hall is a traditional public forum. I don't believe it is, not necessarily anyway, but let's assume, arguendo, that it is. What kind of restriction could we place on it? Could the state place on expressive activities in that space? Well, we know that you can restrict expressive activity in a traditional public forum with reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions. Time, place, and manner. Reasonable time, place, and manner. So we know that a restriction could be tailored, narrowly tailored to achieve a important government interest and a reasonable time, place, and manner restriction, leaving ample alternative channels for communication. We know that could be done. Don't know if there's one in place, but we know it could be done. So without knowing what sort of ordinance or restriction that the officer or law the officer is enforcing, we can't start to make an educated guess on whether or not it's a reasonable time, place, or manner restriction. But even going beyond that, is a city hall is the entranceway to a city hall a traditional public forum? I looked up. I know that the United States Supreme Court has not addressed whether or not the entranceway to a city hall is a traditional public forum. but I did not know if Florida had addressed it. So I Google Scholared it. Again, this isn't a LexisNexis search or a Westlaw search, so there might be something that is out there that did not make it to Google Scholar. But according to Google Scholar, the Florida Supreme Court has not addressed whether or not the entryway to a city hall is a traditional public forum. They haven't addressed whether a city hall itself is a traditional public forum either, which is why you ended up with Sheets versus City of Punta Gorda, where the parties just had to agree, we'll both agree that a city hall is a limited public forum. Now, it would be a reasonable position to come to if that entranceway, that walkway to the city hall, is a limited public forum. And it might be. I mean, we'd have to go through the analysis. The court would have to go through the analysis. We can't just assume it. Unlike G-checkers out there, we can't just assume it. We have to know all the facts, and we don't know any of the facts, really. But assuming arguendo that it's a limited public forum, then all of a sudden, we go back to the analysis in Lee versus the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, where the government regulation just has to be reasonable and rationally related to achieving that reasonable government interest, i.e. and the burden would shift to Jeff Gray to show that it wasn't. Now, all of a sudden, it's most likely going to be that it is not a violation of the Constitution to have a restriction on panhandling there. And if you think, oh, well, there's a difference between the inside of a city hall and the exterior of a city hall, let's just take a step back and go to Coquinda versus the United States. That was talking about the walkway, not a public sidewalk, not a traditional public forum, but the walkway leading from the parking lot into the post office. Post office is a non-public forum. The court held that walkway, non-public forum. The only purpose of that walkway is to facilitate the movement of people from their cars to get into the building, which is a non-public forum. So that's a non-public forum. It is different, distinguishable, and distinct from a traditional sidewalk which borders a street. See U.S. versus Grace. Even U.S. versus Grace, there's a difference. There's a difference between internal sidewalks and sidewalks that are indistinguishable from a traditional sidewalk that goes along the street. So anyway, Jeff, I love you, buddy, but I'm not sure that your argument that that panhandling cannot be restricted or outlawed. I'm not sure that that's a very sound argument to make. Now, if you're trying to get arrested so that you can generate case law to that effect, well, then, I'm on board, man. Let's get her done. Even though I don't like panhandling, I value free speech above my distaste for panhandling. But let's get I just want you to be aware, Jeff, that I don't know what you're talking about. And if Jeff has some amazing case law and he would like to educate me, I'm not above it, man. I'll post it. I'll do a video about it, and I'll explain to everybody how dumb and wrong I am, and I'm fine with that. But at this point, proceed with caution, sir. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.